Hello, this is the 114th issue of Catch of the Day. And today we're going to continue reading from Doug Mitchell's book, When the Siege Has Ended, Ezekiel 5, The Judgment for the Living. Starting near the top of page 10. Here inspiration explains how the judgment for the living begins, how the cleansing of the sanctuary on earth takes place, Daniel 8:14. And having unveiled his people's shocking irresponsibility towards the unfortunate ones among them, and their taking advantage of others whenever possible, he then reassures that he changes not, that he is the same unerring and just God, that his ancient statutes and ordinances are everlasting, that he has not changed them, that he will restore all things. He, as you will see, finally comes to the real trouble, then pleads his people accept his remedy. Jezreel letter number 9, page 2. Thus not only is the church to experience the events symbolized by Ezekiel shaving his head and beard and then doing certain things with the hair when the siege is ended and the judgment for the living begins, but it's also at that time that the Lord will be a swift witness against the sorcerers, adulterers, false swearers, and those who are irresponsible towards the unfortunate ones among them. He is to do that when he comes suddenly to his temple. The time he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi, and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto the Lord an offering in righteousness. Malachi 3, 1-3. Thus the judgment for the living, the purification, begins with two simultaneous events. When the Lord comes suddenly to his temple, one, being his sitting, to refine and purify the ministry, the sons of Levi, and the other, his being a swift witness against the outstanding sins thereof, both of which involve the Lord rebuking and chastening his loved ones. Revelation 3, verse 19. In reading Brother Hardif's early publications, it is apparent that he was expecting the judgment for the living and the purification of the church to commence at the end of the 430-year siege of Ezekiel 4, which he determined to be 1930. Yet not long afterwards, he repeatedly stated that the opening of the judgment of the living was yet future, but not very far so. In view of the fact that our message is announcing the imminent purification of the church, the time in which the angels are to sift out the hypocrites from among the faithful, the time in which the net is drawn to shore and the bad fish cast out, the cleansing of the sanctuary, the judgment for the living in the house of God, 1 Peter 4:17, is about to begin. 1 TG 40, 15, 1947. Brother Hardif certainly bore a faithful witness against the sins pointed out in Malachi 3, 5, and 6, beginning in 1930. Yet as he said that the time when the Lord was to be a swift witness, as described in those verses, was to take place when the judgment for the living would actually begin, and that time was still future from his day, then the actual application of Matthew 3, 5, and 6 must also have been future from his time. Therefore, as the events of Ezekiel 5, 1-4, that are to occur at the end of the siege, are but another portrayal of the same events of Malachi 3, 5, and 6, then the siege could not have ended when the announcement of the Lord's coming to his temple for the judgment of the living came in 1930 through the appointed messenger Malachi 3:1, but had to continue until the Lord actually came suddenly to his temple and the judgment of the living began, and the new message for that time came. Those who are familiar with the Brandt's message are aware that Brother Roden taught that the judgment for the living began in 1955, when the 430 years from the actual beginning of the Protestant Reformation in 1525 came to an end. His reasons for believing such are well documented in his writings, so we direct the readers to those studies on our website www.thebranch.org for his explanation of the matter. Accordingly, with the ending of the 430-year period of the siege in 1955, the purification events in Ezekiel 5, Malachi 3, verse 3, 5, and 6, and the parable of the harvest should have taken place beginning at that time. In Ezekiel 5, the first event to occur in the purification was Ezekiel shaving his head and beard and taking the first third part of it and burning it with fire in the midst of the city, Jerusalem. Interesting. Take care. As a footnote, the website mentioned in the reading today might not be operational at the time of the reading, as it is a fairly older site, but all readers or listeners can be referred to www.bdsda.com. That's the newer site. Take care.